back. We wish you the happiest of holidays, and we're just going to finish up our session on Feel Better Fast and Make It Last. Although, if you stay with us at the Brain Warriors Way podcast, that's what we always talk about,
right.
How to feel better
kind of
fast in a way
thing.
that lasts.
Yeah, it's really the whole thing. So I have to read this because it's actually funny. So I'm going to read two because one of them is really short, and I actually think this is funny. So first, the serious one. This is by Buntbar, ACI YouTube. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Amen. I really love your work. Thank you billions of times. Sharing your knowledge saved my life. After 3 years of suffering and not getting better, 18 months ago, I found you. Your advice is so valuable, it's unbelievable. I got my weight and strength back. Depression is not a big deal anymore, and I got the right treatment for my ADD now. I had to find a new psychiatrist, but it was worth it. You saved my life. Even if my conditions wouldn't cause death, my life wasn't livable anymore. If I go to a new doctor now, I initially ask him if he knows your studies. Aw. If he doesn't, I won't let him treat me. Have a great day. That's important to me for a reason we'll talk about in a minute. This one's cute.
Wait, let me respond. This is why we do what we do.
It is. And I love this because this time the disease didn't win. And sometimes it does.
I actually want you to read it again and let's take it apart a little bit. So she loves the podcast, read that. But she was suffering.
Mm-hmm. So sharing your knowledge has saved my life. And the reason this is really important right now to me, because even in our family, people suffer a lot. And we just had a suicide in our family. And it was someone who just wasn't, everyone knew he was suffering and they were really trying to help, but he wasn't ready to get help, I guess. And didn't say anything before he committed suicide. Nothing. Zip, zero. Everyone was going over there trying to help him. He waited till he was alone, didn't leave a note, nothing.
Well, now, you and I were not involved in this at
No,
all.
I don't know this person very well. It's an in-law.
Right.
That's distant. So I actually didn't personally know this person, but it's still, it hit the people that I love, that I am close to, very hard. And so it just goes to show you, it's, sometimes the disease wins. And it's very painful. And I kept thinking, and you think to yourself, God, we could have helped, but we don't know the person and they weren't ready for help. And so you have to reach out. And I love that this person reached out. They saw it. They were ready. And the disease did not win. So. And
death, it's very important how you think about death.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in college, I took a death and dying class.
Me too.
And we really studied the work of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross,
yeah,
who's a psychiatrist who really focused on death and dying. And I just want to find this quote from her. It's one of the strategies in Feel Better Fast and Make It Last. I use this quote in the book, live with the end in mind. Mm-hmm. She writes,
I do that all the time.
It is the denial of death that is partially responsible for people living empty, purposeless lives. Uh-huh. For when you live as if you'll live forever, it becomes too easy to postpone the things you know that you must do.
Well, and that's why we have the question, does it have eternal value? Does it have eternal value? And if not, it's not important. And if it does, then pay attention, right? And so I like this.
And you have eternal value because I'm going to stalk you in the
afterlife.
Yes. You bet.
So I like this. So this person said, depression is not a big deal anymore. Because depression is as someone who's had it, one of the most painful things when you're going through it. It's horrific. But this person realized that once they got the right help, it's not a big deal anymore. In other words, it doesn't have to be a life sentence, because they also actually said something really interesting. You saved my life. And she said, he or she said, even though this wouldn't cause my death, which isn't always true. I'm glad that this person said that. They said my life wasn't livable any longer. And that's just.
How many of you are really suffering in silence? And you've done that for a long time.
Or you're watching your family members.
There is a way out.
Yeah.
And it's not just going to the family doctor and trying this medicine or that medicine. It's the tiny habits that Tana and I talk about. Is this good for my brain or bad for it? And when you get your brain right, you just feel so much better.
Yeah, so that was really powerful. I'll read the next one on the next one because it's just really funny, and this is too serious to go funny right now.
All right. So in the few minutes we have left, because we've been talking about such serious stuff, when you think of feel better fast and make it last, what's the one thing you learned that you will keep?
The first thing that pops in my head is the tiny habits, simple things. That's it's not as hard as people think. It's about the simple things. It's the daily things.
So if we summarize a couple of them, start every day with today is going to be a great day. Mm-hmm. And even when you had to go to the funeral, it's like, well, how do you say today is going to be a great day, except you drove. You were in the car for like 6 freaking hours that day to go.
Yeah.
But, well, I got to support my mother.
Well, I'm going to be honest. Okay, this is a moment of honesty. It wasn't a great day. Okay, it was not a great day. There were moments, and you actually helped redirect me. And that's the benefit of having people in your life. Right?
Well, and that's what that tiny habit does. Today is going to be a great day. Just redirects your mind.
So I came home, and in your words, I vomited all over you because you're my person. I have healthy people in my life. It was not a great day. But there were moments during the day that were, and you helped redirect me. It was not a great day. I didn't feel well. Physically, I felt awful by the time I got home.
Because?
Lots of reasons.
You drove through a farm community where
the smell
there
was
just manure
killing me,
and it seemed like toxins.
And emotionally, and there were just a lot of things going on. So I got home, and it was not a good day, and I was very frustrated. But I came in, I vomited all over you, which you let me do. Regurgitated my awful day all over you.
Not literally, for those of you who...
Yes, figuratively. And you helped me redirect the day. And then what I did, besides you going, well, what part of the day was good? And I was able to focus. I saw family members I hadn't seen for a long time. And even though it was a terrible circumstance, I actually had moments that were, like someone reminded me of a memory when I was 15 that was awesome. And I just had forgotten about it. And so I focused on that. But then I did something else. The next day, as life would have it, like everyone's sort of pulling at me, but I had promised myself I was going to have sort of a personal self-care day. And I figured out a way to delegate, right? So I figured out a way to delegate and have other people help me with all those things that had to be done. And I took a personal self-care day. And so I worked out, I prayed, I prayed for all of the people, all the things I was frustrated and angry about, I prayed for. And then I meditated and I went in the sauna. And by the end of the day, I felt great. Like I actually was very relaxed and happy and regrounded. And you got to do that.
I talk about in the book that just taking a sauna has been found to be a treatment for depression.
Right.
And a number of my patients say that really helps. But start the day. I mean, not always it's going to work. But if you start the day with today is going to be a great day, that helps to set it up to go in a better direction.
And you're not always going to feel that way. And you're not always going to have a great day. But if you have someone in your life who's positive, who's either your best friend or your partner or someone who follows this same philosophy with you that you can get on board with you, like I have you, right? So, and we do that for each other. Then it's going to really make a difference on those days when you just don't care. I'm not doing this today. I'm just not. And then all of a sudden that person, they listen, they empathize, and then they help redirect you. And you do it together.
And you end every day with what went well today. That's actually how I go to sleep, by thinking about, well, what went well today. And my mind, my reptilian mind that's always looking for trouble will go, well, what went wrong today? And I'm like, knock it off. What went well today? Mm-hmm. And just by noticing the people that you talk to, the memories that you had, the support you were able to be, actually shepherding Chloe through one of her first funerals. I mean, not her first funeral, but one of her first funerals can
No,
be
it wasn't
really
her first funeral. It
important.
was her first suicide.
Yeah. Another tiny habit, probably the most important tiny habit that you can do, is a game I played with Chloe since she was 2. Is this good for my brain or bad for it? Literally takes 3 seconds. And if you can answer that tiny habit or question with love and intelligence, you'll make the right decisions that will give you a great brain. Stay with us. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about what you should do when a loved one is in denial about needing help. This is something we have dealt with a lot over time, but before we get into this, you have a review and you have a smile on your face.
Well, because it's very apropos to what you just said. So this is from Lloyd of Rochester. Lloyd's of Rochester. Okay. So thank you for your podcast. This one may get through to certain unhappy people in my life much better than anything I could say to them. Yeah, it's human nature. So I think I'm getting out of this that he recommends it to people when he wants to say something and can't say it. So when people are in denial, right?
Well, it's so common. I think I mentioned I'm beginning to work on a new book called The End of Mental Illness. Nobody wants to see a psychiatrist. No one wants to be labeled as defective or abnormal, but everybody wants a better brain. And I remember when I told my dad in 1980 I wanted to be a psychiatrist, he asked me why I didn't want to be a real doctor, why I wanted to be a nut doctor and hang out with nuts all day long, and it hurt my feelings. And 40 years later, I completely get why he said that.
And when you say, I want to just elaborate for 1 second, because sometimes I think we say that so often, we sort of gloss over everybody wants a better brain. When you say everybody wants a better brain, everybody wants to be, because what that really means is you want to be happier, you want to be more successful, you want to be more connected, you want to be more purposeful, more giving, more
smarter.
That's what it means to have a better brain, right? So it's not just about, this organ that I have. It's about when you have a better brain, all of those things happen.
So reframing the discussion to brain health, it gets people excited about getting help rather than feeling ashamed to get help. So I trained, I did my child psychiatry fellowship in Hawaii, and Hawaii is an Asian culture. 40% of the culture's either Chinese or Japanese, and they're a shame-based culture.
Yeah, for sure.
And they don't seek help for mental illnesses. And do you remember when we were in England and we were hanging out for Winford? And he said, if you go see a therapist or a psychiatrist, they really look down on you. That you're daft, weak. Is what he said.
And my friend from China, I just had lunch with a friend from China, and she was struggling with some things with her kids, and she said to me something very interesting. I was saying, well, have you tried this or this? And she said, oh, no, we don't talk about that in our culture. And she's from China, so she's not American Chinese. And so I said, what do you mean you don't talk about it? She said, no, we are all about success and power. Success and power. You don't talk about anything that has anything to do with
Which is why there's a high suicide rate.
Right. And why she's why they're struggling. She's like, and she's very evolved. She's very self-evolved, but she's having a hard time verbalizing this with the rest of her family.
And like many Asian people, they'll do anything for success and power for their children. Right. And so if we just reframe the discussion from mental health to brain health, well, they'll do anything. Right. To give their child an advantage. And I mean, that's really what we talk about here on the Brain Warriors Way. How can we give you a competitive advantage? Because your competitive advantage is what's going on in the moment-by-moment function between your ears.
Right.
Exactly. So what should you do if a loved one is in denial? We have tips. Try the straightforward approach first, but with a brain twist. Clearly tell the person what behaviors you're concerned about. You're good at that. Tell him or her what the problems may be, that the problems may actually be due to a brain that may not be firing right. And so many people, they lead people to my TED Talk, Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, that I think it's got 2 million views. And it really reframes the discussion. Give the loved one information, so books, videos, articles. If you bring it up and they just deny it, plant seeds.
I love so what you call it doing a drive-by.
Doing a drive-by, right, a little hit and run. So, say something and then don't say it again, because don't ruin the relationship over it, because if you ruin the relationship over it, you have no influence. And I am about manipulation and influence, a little Machiavellian in me. So protect the relationship, give them new hope. And there comes a time when you have to say enough is enough. That if somebody is not going to get help, you don't have to stay with them
I don't have a problem
for long enough, because we cannot force people into treatment. But it's giving them that different spin on mental health issues.
Well, and I think if I could add something to that, because I've sadly been through this a lot with several people in my family. One thing, if there's anything, I have no problem with the drawing boundaries part, 0 zip, because I've had to. Sadly, I've had to. Just for my own sanity, I've had to, growing up. But there are some relationships, like you said, you're just not willing to blow up. You're not willing to let go of, whether it's a parent or a child or whatever. And so the thing that I've sort of learned is meeting people where they're at. Like, I come home, like you said, you're my person. I come home and I'm like, and so we talk about it, and you help me sort of deal with it personally, but not so much blow up that relationship. And then what I try to do is meet them where they're at and find a way to gain rapport with them, and then find the right time to say it in a way that they can hear it. Because if you try to say it at a time they can't hear it, it's just not ever going to get through.
And there are ways to say things, and there are ways to say things.
Right.
Right? So is it done with empathy and love and thoughtfulness, or are you just dumping on them?
Right. And there are times, literally, your thing you told me, you're like, I think you need to go to karate and just go beat something up. And it's just true. You have to have a way that you don't take it out on the person. So a healthy way, a healthy outlet for yourself, because it's frustrating, right? So have a healthy outlet. So talking to you, going to karate, having my little nest, that is safe. Those are things that I do that keep me from just going crazy.
Well, and I remember for so many years, my dad wouldn't get healthy, and that made me sad because I love him. And, called me a nut doctor, and then when I got healthy, he called me a health nut. And then he said, "What's with you and the nuts?"
You're like, nuts are good for you.
But because I consistently lived the message of my life, when he got sick, he said, "I'm tired of being sick. What do you want me to do?" And so I didn't blow up the relationship when he didn't do what I wanted him to do when I wanted him to do it. Literally, it's 20 years later.
Yeah.
But because I'm consistent, I'm loving, I live the message of my life, that when he needed me, he trusted me.
Yeah, no, I've been through that with family members too, even just recently.
So, and I think the thing you're really good at is being assertive, and persistent in a loving way. And so if you just think about when we talked about relating from Feel Better Fast, it's I'm responsible. What's my part in the relationship? But you have empathy for the other person. You listen. You're assertive.
And drawing boundaries is healthy. I'm very clear now at this stage in my life about what I can control and what I am willing to do, not what I can make someone else do. So, this is what I'm willing to do, because this is what's healthy for me and my family. And I can't make you do anything that you don't want to do. But I'm not willing to do these things, and I am willing to do these things. You will either be a part of our family or not, with the choices you make. So we want you to be a part of our family. So I will be sad if you choose not to be.
So if you have someone in your life that is struggling, get them a copy of Feel Better Fast and Make It Last, or Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, or if you think they have ADD, Healing ADD. All of these resources we create for you. Stay with us. Welcome back. Feel Better Fast, Make It Last. We just have 2 more lessons on this, and then we're done.
How sad for you. You're always sad when you finish. And then you're on to the next one.
I have you, so I will be able to deal with it. You are the treatment for my sadness.
So, okay, let's see. This is from Don Vincenti. Really good coaching, basics, and the reason they work. This should be required learning for all. Thanks, Amens. Simple, but I like that.
This is required, so don't turn us off. We're going to do a little summary of Feel Better Fast and Make It Last. And we're going to do that in the context of 7 tiny habits. So when you think of the brain, the B in Brain Excel, what is the tiny habit that's the most important?
To protect it.
So it's asking yourself that question, is this good for my brain or bad for it? So do you remember when Chloe was little and I would do this with her?
Yep.
That was so much fun for me.
That question is probably the most
because she was
we
intense and verbal.
Well, and as you like to say, we have effectively instilled an anxiety disorder in that child. So
to do the right thing.
Yes.
Right? Because people who have low levels of anxiety die the earliest from accidents and preventable illnesses. And so they're not forward thinking. That's what your prefrontal cortex does. So that front third part of your brain, largest in humans and any other animal by far, 30% of the human brain, 7% of Aslan's brain, our white shepherd, 3% of Miso's brain, our cat.
And we say that, you know, sort of flippantly, but I mean, it's kind of a joke, but the reality is, you know, teenagers don't sometimes have enough anxiety. And so with her, it's not like when we joke about the anxiety disorder, but she's anxious about the right things. She's anxious about getting good grades. She's anxious about getting in cars with certain people. She's anxious about, you know, hurting herself. She's anxious about doing things that will harm her. You know, drinking, smoking pot, like all of those things. She knows.
What
she's always
happened when
thinking
you took her to the
consequences.
Poison concert?
Oh my God, it was so funny. So I took her to a concert, and this was like an 80s rock band, right? And so I thought we would just have this like mother-daughter thing because it's like my music. And the first thing she did, she was horrified. She looked around at all the moms like going crazy, and she's like, "Is this what you do when you're not with me?" I'm like, "No, I don't."
Weren't they twerking?
Yes. She goes, "If I ever see you twerking, I will kill you myself." I almost died. I go, "I don't twerk. I promise you, I do not twerk." And then all of a sudden,
I'd like to see that.
Shut up. Okay. Erase, cut, edit. No, just kidding. Anyways, so the guy next to us, all of a sudden he like lights up a joint and starts smoking pot. And she had never been to a concert where anyone smoked pot. So she'd always been to these like concerts where it was just like kids mostly. And so this was her first like kind of hardcore like rock concert. She freaked. I've never seen my daughter jump that high. She literally jumped over the seats, grabbed her nose and took off running down the aisle. And she goes, "I'm calling Daniel. I'm calling Daniel." And I go, "Why are you calling Daniel?" She goes, "Because I'm going to tell him if my brain scan turns out bad, it's not my fault. It's your fault."
So she has it. Is this good for my brain or bad for it?
Yep.
The R in Brain Excel is rational mind. It's managing the horde of ant infestations that drive unhappiness and anxiety and fear and strife and marital trouble. And the tiny habit for this is whenever you feel sad or mad or nervous or out of control, write down what you're thinking. Write it down, because when you write it down, you get it out of your head. So when was the last time you felt really irritated?
Oh, just like 2 days ago. Really irritated.
And what was the thought?
Oh, no. No. I don't want to say it out loud.
What is the PG-13 version of the thought?
No, I was frustrated with my mom. I was really frustrated with my mom. I felt like I was angry at my mom for not taking care of herself, for putting other people before her family, for not taking care of herself.
So what was the thought? She doesn't take care of herself?
That she puts everyone else before she puts her family. And I could go all the way back in my life, and I kept coming up with lots of evidence. So,
okay.
Yeah, so, other people are more important than our family.
In the book, I actually teach a process that you know really well. But when you're angry, you don't want to do it because you're stubborn.
I was pissed. I was like really pissed off.
But if you want to feel better, so there's a choice. You always have a choice. You can feel pissed off. So if that's your choice, have at it. Right. Enjoy it.
And I had lots of evidence. She makes herself sick.
Or you can question it.
Right.
And this is very important. Some people want to hold on to the unhappiness because it's what they're used to.
Right.
And
I don't.
They carry a flag around in their house with the I am unhappy, I'm going to hold on to this thought. But when they question it, when they really go, is that true? Is it 100% true? They realize that these negative thoughts drive headaches. They drive tiredness. They drive unhappiness. I felt terrible. And you just don't have to have them.
Right.
But you need a method, and feel better fast. I have the method, and we've talked about it here on the podcast. The A is attachments. So the little tiny habit is, does my behavior serve my goals? Does it fit? So the first thing you have to do, and I had a teenager in my office yesterday who was not being nice to her mother. And I said, so what's your goal with your mom? What kind of relationship do you want to have? She's like, what kind of question is that? It's like a really good question. What kind of goal do you want to have? And it stopped her. And she backed up. She said, I want to have a good relationship with my mom. I said, is your behavior getting you what you want? See, the father and grandfather and me wanted to chew her out because she was being rude. But that doesn't work, right? The only thing that would do is separate her from me. It's better always to go, what do you want?
How do you get
very clear what I want with you. Kind, caring, loving, supportive.
But see, now the responsible part of me is, did you ask the mom the same thing?
Of course.
Okay. Because parents sometimes do stupid stuff.
Because I have your voice in my head.
Yeah, no, parents do
judging
stupid things.
I have your voice in my head judging me. But that's you. The little tiny habit is, does it fit? Does my behavior fit the goals I have for my life? But you have to know what your goals are, right? That's why the one-page miracle where you ask yourself, what do you want in your relationships, for your work, for your money, for your physical, emotional, spiritual health? What do you want? And when your behavior doesn't fit, then you have to go, well, how do I act in ways that get me what I want? And it's not selfish. Too many people think that's selfish.
No.
It's effective.
Yeah.
And that's what
and see,
I
that's
want
that's
for
what
you.
I was frustrated with my mom for. That's what I was frustrated about. So I, before I could even get to the point of asking, like, is it true, I had to pray and meditate for about an hour. And then I could do the whole is it true thing. And then I found the right way to talk to her about it in a way she could
And you
hear.
actually had a beautiful conversation.
I did. And she just listened. And I'm like, wow, like that was big. and she was sad.
Did you feel how powerful you were?
Yeah, and I felt how much she wanted to be part of the family. She wanted to be, she doesn't do it because she thinks she's doing the right thing always, right? She doesn't do it because she thinks she's a bad person. She does it because she's being a good person. She just doesn't see it from the way other people are seeing it.
Right. So communicating with her
right.
in a way she could hear
right.
it rather than attacking her.
Right.
It's just a bit more effective.
Significantly.
Under inspiration, does this feeling or action have eternal value?
Right. That's my favorite question on the planet. On the planet. Because immediately, for me, it diffuses whatever, if I get to break my computer, crash a car, it doesn't matter. As long as the people in my life are not hurt, I'm able to immediately diffuse the anger that I feel, for the most part.
Under nourishment, the N in Brain Excel. Do I love food that loves me back? Mm-hmm. What's your relationship like with food?
Absolutely. And I would add to nourishment. I mean, we've already been talking about it because all of this is nourishment for your brain. But what thoughts are you putting in your head too? Like, how are you nourishing your soul and your body and everything?
So that happens more than just with medications or supplements or food. It happens with the
toxic
people.
Air.
The people.
Like when I had that splitting headache driving back in the farming community, and I just wonder how
it's
people
a cause
live.
of mental illness.
How do people live in those communities safely?
There's a higher incidence of emotional learning behavior problems.
So sad.
The X factor, what we learned from imaging, the question is, if I looked at my brain, would it be healthy or not? And if not, well, what am I going to do about it? And Feel Better Fast, we give you the whole Bright Minds approach to do that. And my favorite part about the new book is the last chapter, which is actually fairly short. It's about love. Does my behavior show that I love myself and others? Because doing the right thing is never about you should do the right thing. It's about you do the right thing because you love your life, you love your wife, you love your mission, you love your purpose. And quite frankly, I love you. And I want to extend this.
It's so interesting to me that the Bible, like, the repeatedly talks about the most important commandment being love. And even, most religions talk about love.
Most religions, it's love God with your heart, mind, and soul.
But love is more important
than
anything.
And love your neighbor
and we're not
as
good
yourself.
At that naturally. We have to work at it.
Because if you're not loving your neighbor, you're really not loving yourself.
We're not naturally good at this. So we need to work at it. It's just, and I think that's why it's a commandment, right?
If you said it, I believe it. Stay with us. Welcome back. So we're going to finish our Feel Better Fast and Make It Last series.
I think this one's really important because we're talking about the holidays and people not doing well during the holidays. And I want to actually talk to you about specifically why people don't do well during the holidays and what they can use from this book, the principles you talk about, to turn it around, and what people that love them can do to help them turn it around. Because this has been just going on in my own life and my family, and it probably many people listening to us.
So if you want to have a bad Christmas, buy a lot of alcohol.
And sugar. Right.
If you want to have a bad Christmas.
And now that pot's legal in many states. And,
it's toke it up. All right, before we go.
So, Brilliant by Kelly Davis, Dr. Kelly Davis. Dr. Daniel Amen is brilliant, is a brilliant medical doctor who is changing lives through his work. His wife, Tana Amen, is brilliantly informative too. I just wanted you to hear that. Even though I'm tagged on, I wanted you to hear that I'm brilliantly informative. Just so you know, FYI. Just kidding. Everyone should hear everything that these two have to say.
Well, so you're here with my brilliant wife and her husband, who his mother called son because I'm bright. So getting serious. Seasonal affective disorder is real. It's serious. It begins to happen actually in October. Mm-hmm. And then the stress of November and December. And one of the big reasons, besides there's less sun, there's lower vitamin D, there's a higher risk of depression just because of the weather. It's interesting, I'm listening once again to Lincoln's Melancholy. Mm-hmm. And in the winter of 1840, 1841, he was suicidal. Mm-hmm. And one of the things he attributed it to was how awful the weather was.
Yeah, especially when people live in states where the weather's particularly bad.
Seasonal affective disorder is real. But it even happens in sunny Southern California because we just went through the time change.
Right, so the time change
and all of
actually
a sudden,
linked.
the sun is not out anymore.
And it's specifically linked to people starting to get a little wonky or more tired, a little depressed. But then during the holidays, if you add to that, what happens? It gets colder, so people start spending more time indoors. We start traveling because we're going to see family. Our stress level goes up dramatically because financially, we're now strapped. We have to buy presents for everybody. I hate shopping more than anything on the planet. So now you have to go shopping for all these people. You're stressed out.
But you love online
No, I don't love it. I just have to do it. I have to do it. But so you've got to shop. You have financially, you're strapped and you're feeling bad because you can't buy what you want to buy for people you love. You have to travel. It's cold. Traveling alone makes people sick. You got the time change. You have all of these factors, and now you're going to eat bad and drink a lot of alcohol on top of it.
And then add one more factor that people often don't think about. So they're going to spend time with their family.
And they're not sleeping as well.
And their family's often stressful for them because they're not taking care of
their brain. And family dynamics come up.
And when we come to the holidays, you come to Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, you have this expectation in your head because of social media that everybody's having an awesome time.
Yes.
And so you begin to compare your family,
the Hallmark Channel,
your life with, you might not remember Donna Reed and Fathers Know Best and, those perfect family
the Hallmark Channel
shows. Right. That because your family is different, that you don't live up.
That was never more apparent to me than last year. Do you remember when our nieces came? It was the first year they spent with us, and we were all outside cuddled up we're outside because it's California and it was beautiful out. And we were cuddled up on the couch outside and we were hanging out, and I had the little fire pit going, and our niece looked over at us and she goes, I'd actually had all three nieces, and she looks over and she goes, I've never had a holiday like this. And I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, we've never had a holiday without drama that's this peaceful and there was no alcohol. She's like, it feels weird. So people have these expectations that the holidays are going to be great. But if your family is the type of family where there's a lot of family drama, where there's a lot of chaos and fighting. And
so if you want to create a mental illness, go through the holidays where not only is there disappointment, but there's a lack of sleep. There's more free-flowing alcohol. There's stress and disappointment because, you know, I mean, how many times can you buy something that thrills somebody? Mm-hmm. And it's stress, disappointment, sleep, toxins, a lack of exercise, overdoing things, filled with negative thinking. It's a prescription for disaster. But having said that, December is the lowest month for suicide.
But the highest month, Christmas Day, for heart attacks.
The lowest month for suicide.
Number one day for heart attacks.
The highest month for suicide is April.
Right.
Because people who've been depressed for months, now the sun is out longer.
They
have more energy to complete something that they've thought about for
months
a long
now.
time.
Yeah.
Or it's because they have to pay their taxes. And they'd rather
Really?
check out than pay their taxes.
So they're going to show the IRS. A little confused by that, but.
So what are the holiday prescriptions from Dr. Tana Amen? What are the holiday prescriptions from the brain doctor's wife?
Well, I can only tell you the nutrition part is that.
Now you're a nurse. You're a neurosurgical ICU nurse. They're bossy and they're
bossy,
in charge.
aren't we?
So take your bossiness, your bossy highness, and be in charge and give our brain warrior listeners.
Well, I actually did write about this in
direction.
I wrote about this in Brain Warriors Way, only from the standpoint of, because as a nurse in the hospital, we know, and it's funny, we see so many car accidents because of people drinking, but we see so many people coming in the hospital with heart attacks, and everyone thinks it's just because it's a stressful time of year, and it is a stressful time of year, but it's because people aren't taking care of themselves, and it's not just December. They start in October, right? And they just start not taking care of themselves all the way through.
Halloween.
All the way through.
And then they go, oh, it's January, let's get healthy. It's insane.
It's silly, right? So that's the problem, is we just see these people. And then they add the stress of the holidays on top of it, and the travel and the lack of sleep. And the time change is not good for us, right? We know that. So you throw that in on top of it, and now all of a sudden you have a recipe for disaster. So, I mean, really what we talk about doing is everything that we've talked about in Brain Warriors Way. It's what you talk about, the tiny habits and feel better fast. It's really what we talk about. You have to follow those daily habits to combat it. So the first thing you need to do is be sleeping, and you need to be grounded. So meditating, praying, grounding yourself.
So like making appointments to exercise, because so often, especially this happens for women more than men, because women are more selfless, men are more selfish, just as a rule, right? It's about me. And for women, evolutionary-wise, it's about we.
It's part of the argument my mom and I got into, because I will take the time no matter what to exercise, eat healthy, right?
And that's rational.
That's
critical.
That's actually
because
selfless.
What they say on a plane, when the masks come down, put yours on first.
Yep.
So that you can then put one
on
your
favorite
child. But if you don't take care of yourself, there's no way you can take care of others. And if you have daughters, what you're doing is you're modeling taking care of everybody else and not yourself.
Right.
And you actually, I think, do a good job of modeling for Chloe. I need this time because that's what makes me be an effective human being.
When family members call that selfish, I would argue it's actually much more selfish to do the other thing.
Well, because then you end up prickly.
No, not just prickly. You end up sick, and your family members have to take care of you. And you're not there for them when they need you. You can't show up and be your best when people need you. That's selfish. So, yes, that's me preaching.
Back to the prescription. Positivity, happiness.
Yeah, this was a little personal in case you didn't notice.
Let's get back to prescriptions from the brain doctor's wife for the holidays.
So yeah, finding a way to ground yourself is really important. So for me, the prayer and meditation, I'm not a person who can do one thing. I have to do it all. So prayer, meditation, exercise. But eating really bad during the holidays to me just seems psychotic. It just doesn't even make sense. Now, we're not saying, we know you're going to maybe have something, but have a plan. And we actually write about a plan in the cookbook, in the Brain Warriors Way cookbook. There's a plan for the holidays. Have a 3-bite rule if you're going to go have something. You don't need to go pig out. There's a plan to have healthy recipes for the holidays, healthy stuffing, healthy turkey, healthy desserts for the holidays. And if you're going to have something that someone else made, do the 3-bite rule. Don't go hog wild crazy for 3 months. That's just dumb. It just doesn't make sense.
It's not the sign of love.
Yes.
So what are some of your favorite desserts?
So I have all kinds of, if you like pumpkin, there's all kinds of pumpkin-based stuff. There's pumpkin spice lattes. There's pumpkin muffins. There's pumpkin everything. There's brownies. There's chocolate.
Your brownies are so
good. The brownies are great. There's chocolate muffins. There's apple cobbler, right? There's cherry cobbler. Yeah, so there's all kinds of stuff.
Ridiculous.
But there's no sugar added. They have a little really natural sugar from the fruit.
Really good.
Right.
In fact, you should make me some of that.
So have a plan. My suggestion would be to have a plan to be healthy. Warriors, do not start training on fight day, because you can't start training on fight day and expect to win. You have to be trained, prepared, ready to go, so that on fight day you win.
And notice how you feel when you do the right thing and how you feel when you don't do the right thing. We want you to love yourself.
Be prepared.
Getting well. I mean, the holidays are really a celebration of love.
Not a time to kill yourself and like be a glutton. I don't understand that. Yes, I'm preaching again. Sorry. I'm not sorry. I take it back. I'm not sorry.
Pastor Tana Amen.
I'm just not sorry. Take care of yourselves.
Happy holidays.
Your loved ones are depending on you to be healthy. Take care of yourselves. Love yourself and love other people by taking care of yourself. Because we love you.
Happy holidays. Use the code podcast10 to get a 10% discount on a full evaluation at amenclinics.com or on our supplements at brainmdhealth.com. Thank you for listening to the Brain Warriors Way podcast. Go to iTunes and leave a review, and you'll automatically be entered into a drawing to get a free signed copy of the Brain Warriors Way and the Brain Warriors Way cookbook we give away every month.